The council chamber floated in the darkness of space, a massive ring of metal and glass that orbited the neutral world below. Inside, 247 different species gathered under the soft blue lights. Some had tentacles, others had wings, and a few existed as clouds of sentient gas contained in specialized suits. At the center of it all sat the humans, quiet and watchful. Taeyang adjusted his formal suit and looked across the curved table at High Chancellor Malgoth of the Velkring Dominion. The Chancellor's 6 eyes gleamed with satisfaction as he prepared to speak. Behind Taejang, military advisor Ji Wu stood perfectly still, her hands clasped behind her back. To his left, economic strategist Hana reviewed data on her tablet, her expression growing darker with each passing moment. The chamber fell silent as Malgoth rose to his full height of 3 meters. His voice boomed through the translation system. Esteemed council members, today we vote on Resolution 7 Alpha. The human species has expanded too quickly. They take too many trade routes. They build too many colonies. They disturb the balance we have maintained for 10,000 cycles. Taeyang felt his jaw tighten, but said nothing. He had heard this speech before in private meetings, but hearing it publicly was different. The accusations continued. Humans are aggressive, Malgoth declared. They share technology without proper oversight. They interfere in disputes that do not concern them. Therefore, we propose strict limits on human expansion. We propose heavy tariffs on human goods. We propose reduced voting rights until they learn to behave as proper council members should. The chamber erupted in murmurs. Some species nodded in agreement. Others looked uncomfortable but stayed silent. Taeyang caught the eye of the Arani representative, Ambassador Kelth. The Arani were insectoid beings with compound eyes that reflected light in rainbow patterns. 3 years ago, humans had saved the Arani homeworld from invasion. Kelth looked away. The voting began. One by one, species cast their votes on the display screens. The tally climbed steadily. The Prism Hegemony voted yes. The Tholian Empire voted yes. The Asarian Collective voted yes. Species that had benefited from human medicine, human technology, human protection, they all voted yes. Hana leaned close to Taeyang and whispered, 231 in favor so far. Only 3 against. 13 abstentions. Taeyang nodded slowly. He watched the Arani delegation. Ambassador Kelth pressed the abstain button. Not even a vote against the resolution. Just silence. When the final tally appeared on the screens, the result was clear. Resolution 7 Alpha had passed with overwhelming support. The restrictions on humanity would begin immediately. The tariffs would cripple human trade. Humanity would become second-class citizens in the very council they had helped build. Malgoth smiled, his sharp teeth visible. The vote is complete. Humans will now. Taeyang stood up. The movement was so sudden and deliberate that the entire chamber fell silent. He looked around at the faces, tentacles, and sensors pointed in his direction. He took a breath and spoke in a calm, clear voice. The human delegation acknowledges the vote, he said. We have heard the will of this council. You have decided that humanity is too aggressive, too disruptive, too successful for your comfort. Several delegates shifted uncomfortably. Malgoth's smile faded slightly. Taeyang continued, You voted to restrict our growth, to burden our trade, to diminish our voice. You did this despite our contributions, despite our sacrifices, despite our friendship. He paused and looked directly at Ambassador Kelth. Some of you we saved. Some of you we healed. Some of you we fed when your world starved. And still, you voted against us. Ambassador Taeyang, Malgoth interrupted. If you wish to protest, you may file an appeal. We are not filing an appeal. Taeyang said quietly. The silence that followed was absolute. Effective immediately, humanity withdraws from the Galactic Council. The chamber exploded. Delegates shouted in dozens of languages. The translation system struggled to keep up. Malgoth slammed his appendage on the table, demanding order. You cannot simply leave. Malgoth roared. There are procedures. There are agreements. Agreements you just voted to break, Hana said, standing beside Taeyang. She held up her tablet. Every technology-sharing program humanity maintained terminated. Every protection treaty void. Every trade agreement canceled. Every preferential rate gone. We are done. Ji Wu spoke for the first time, her voice carrying the weight of military authority. All human military advisors are being recalled. All human defense installations in non-human space will be dismantled. All joint operations are concluded as of this moment. Malgoth laughed. It was a harsh, barking sound. This is a tantrum. A child's response to not getting its way. You will return within a cycle, begging to be readmitted. Where will you go? What will you do without the council? Taeyang gathered his documents. Hana quickly downloaded files from the council database Research Humanity had shared freely over decades. Ji Wu sent an encrypted message on her communicator. The message was brief. Protocol Exodus. Initiated. We will see, Taeyang said simply. He looked around the chamber one last time. We came to this council as hopeful members of a galactic community. We believed in cooperation. We believed in mutual respect. You have taught us that we were naive. The human delegation walked toward the exit. Other delegates shouted questions, demands, threats. Taeyang ignored them all. At the doorway, he paused and turned back. You wanted to limit humanity because you feared what we might become, he said. Now you will discover what we become when you try to cage us. Good luck, Chancellor Malgoth. You are going to need it. The doors closed behind the humans. In the chamber, silence gradually returned. Delegates looked at each other uncertainly. Malgoth waved his appendage dismissively. Let them go, he announced. They are nothing without the council. They will be back within 6 months, apologizing and accepting whatever terms we offer. The humans have just made the greatest mistake in their short history. In the corridor, Ji Wu looked at Taeyang. Did we just do that? We did, Taeyang confirmed. Hana smiled coldly. They think we need them. They have no idea how much they need us. The human delegation boarded their shuttle. As they left the council station behind, none of them looked back. Below, the galaxy continued spinning, unaware that everything was about to change. Humanity had quit the council. Now the real test would begin. The question was not whether humanity would survive without the council. The question was whether the council would survive without humanity. 6 months passed like a slow breath through the galaxy. The council members expected angry messages from Earth. They expected desperate pleas for readmission. They expected humans to come crawling back, humbled and apologetic. Instead, they got silence. At first, the silence seemed normal. Human ambassadors did not return to council stations. Human delegates stopped attending committee meetings. This was expected. But then other things began to disappear. Human ships stopped docking at alien ports. Human traders stopped carrying cargo between alien worlds. Human colonies across 300 systems went dark, not destroyed, just closed. Their communication arrays stopped broadcasting. Their jump gates shut down. Their borders became walls. Admiral Sanghoon stood on the bridge of the warship Indomitable, watching the last human outpost in foreign space pack up and leave. The station had protected the border region between Velcrin and prison territories for 8 years. Now it was being stripped down, piece by piece. Every weapon, every scanner, every piece of equipment was being loaded onto transport ships. "Status report," Sang-hoon said. "85% complete, Admiral," his second officer replied. "All personnel will be evacuated within 12 hours. The station will be abandoned." "Not abandoned," Sang-hoon corrected. "Reclaimed. Every bolt and wire comes home with us." Across the galaxy, the same scene played out hundreds of times. Human Marines marched out of joint military bases. Human scientists packed up their research from collaborative facilities. Human engineers shut down systems they had built and maintained for decades. Everything that humanity had spread across the stars was pulling back, condensing, withdrawing into human space. On the industrial planet Forge 9, factory supervisor Vexlern stared at the production line in confusion. The massive machines had simply stopped working. Alarms blared across the facility. Vexlern rushed to the control room where his engineers were frantically pressing buttons. "What happened?" he demanded. "The nano-assembly protocols crashed," one engineer said, her tentacles trembling. "Every line that uses human-designed systems just shut down. So fix it." "We cannot. The licenses expired. The human technicians who maintained the systems left 3 days ago. Without them, we have no access to the core programming." Vexlern felt something he had never experienced before: true helplessness. He checked the numbers. 30% of Forge 9's production capacity was gone. Just like that. Across the Velcrin Dominion, similar reports flooded in. Industries ground to a halt. Systems failed. No one had realized how deeply human technology had woven itself into their civilization. On Unity Station, a massive medical facility in neutral space, Dr. Bai Ray packed her personal belongings. Around her, alien medical staff watched nervously. One of them, a prism healer named South, approached her. "Dr. Ba-ora, please reconsider," South said. "Your research has saved millions of lives." Ba-ora continued packing. "My research that you called primitive. My techniques that you said were outdated. My methods that you mocked in council meetings. That was politics, not science. You must understand." "I understand perfectly," Ba-ora interrupted. She handed South a data chip. "These are the basic protocols for the 27 vaccines my team developed. The complete research is going back to Earth. If your people want it, they can negotiate with our government. But patients will die without those treatments." Ba-ora paused at the door. "Then I suggest you learn very quickly how to make them yourselves. Or perhaps the council should have thought about that before voting to restrict us." She left. Behind her, South looked at the data chip in his appendage. It contained only basic information, enough to tantalize, not enough to replicate. The Prism hegemony had 43 medical protocols that depended on human research. Now they had access to none of it. The Tholian Empire discovered their own crisis when their faster-than-light communication network collapsed. The Empire spanned 17 star systems. For decades, they had communicated instantly using quantum entanglement nodes. Every single node had been built using human technology. When the maintenance contracts expired and human engineers went home, no one thought much of it. Then the nodes began failing. One by one, star systems went silent. The Tholian government tried to contact human technical support. No response. They tried to reverse engineer the nodes. The technology was beyond their understanding. Within a month, the Tholian Empire could not coordinate its own fleets. Their military scattered across 17 systems with no way to communicate. At Crossroads Station, the largest trade hub in the galaxy, Merchant Captain Haiyan Wu watched chaos unfold. His ship, the Morning Star, was one of the last human vessels in non-human space. He was only there to pick up the final group of human merchants. "Captain, you have to help us," a Velcrin trader begged. I have 14,000 containers of grain that must reach Axis 7 within a week, or it spoils. Every human freight company refused my contract. Haiyan Wu shook his head. Not my problem. I will pay triple the normal rate. Not interested. Haiyan Wu gestured to the station around them. The docking bays that were usually filled with hundreds of ships now held maybe 50. Most of those were small local traders. The massive human freight haulers were gone. You should have thought about this before the vote. I did not vote. I am just a merchant. Your government voted, Haiyan Wu said coldly. Your representatives voted. You benefited from their decisions, so now you suffer for them too. He walked away, leaving the Velcrin trader standing alone in the empty bay. Across the galaxy, similar scenes repeated. Human ships had carried 68% of long-haul cargo. Now that capacity was simply gone. Prices skyrocketed. Supply chains collapsed. Worlds that imported food began rationing. Planets that exported raw materials watched their economies crumble. High Chancellor Malgoth called an emergency council session. The chamber that had been so full of confidence 6 months ago now reeked of desperation. Delegates shouted at each other, blaming everyone except themselves. Order! Malgoth roared. We must have order. The chamber quieted. Malgoth looked around at the faces before him. The human departure has caused some difficulties. This is temporary. We simply need to reorganize our systems and temporary? Ambassador Kelf interrupted. The Aurani representative stood, his compound eyes reflecting the chamber lights. Our medical supplies are running out. Our communication grid is failing. Our defense systems are operating at 40% efficiency. This is not temporary. This is catastrophic. Other delegates murmured in agreement. Malgoth slammed his appendage down. Then we will solve it. We are 246 species. Surely we can manage without one. But privately, Malgoth knew the truth. Reports crossed his desk every day. Industrial output down. Trade volume collapsing. Medical crises emerging. Military readiness dropping. And worst of all, rumors that the Scourge was probing their borders again. The Scourge. The extragalactic threat that had nearly destroyed the Council 3 years ago. They had been beaten back then, but only because humans had led the defense. Human tactics. Human weapons. Human determination. Now the humans were gone. On Earth, in the military command center beneath the surface of Mars, General Jun Seo reviewed the same intelligence about the Scourge. His staff officers waited for orders. Do we respond to the distress calls from Aurani space? One officer asked. Jun-ECO looked at the messages on his screen. Desperate pleas for help. Warnings about Scourge movements. Appeals to human honor and compassion. He pressed the delete button. No response, he said simply. Sir, thousands could die. Thousands of people who voted to restrict us, Jun-Seo said. We gave them protection for free for decades. They thanked us by trying to cage us. Now they can protect themselves. The officer nodded and left. Jun-Seo turned back to his screens, studying reports from human space. While the galaxy burned, humanity was growing stronger. 18 months after humanity quit the Council, the galaxy looked very different. The grand vision of cooperation and unity that the Council had promised for 10,000 years was crumbling, like sand in the wind. But the Council leadership refused to admit their mistake. Pride, it seemed, was not unique to humans. High Chancellor Malgoth stood before an emergency session and declared a new plan. We will fill the void the humans left. The Velcrin Dominion will take over the trade routes they abandoned. The Prism Hegemony will reverse engineer their technology. The Tholian Empire will rebuild communication systems. We do not need humanity, We never did. The other delegates nodded, some enthusiastically, others with obvious doubt. But no one spoke against the plan. To do so would be admitting that Resolution 7 Alpha had been a catastrophic error. So instead, they pushed forward into disaster. The Velcrin Dominion sent their merchant fleets into the old human trade routes. The captains quickly discovered why humans had dominated cargo transport. The routes through unstable regions required split-second navigation decisions. Human pilots, with their quick reflexes and intuitive problem-solving, had made it look easy. Velcrin pilots, following standard procedures and protocol, lost 17 ships in the first month, 14 more in the second. The losses continued mounting until the Dominion quietly abandoned the attempt. The Prism hegemony gathered their best scientists to study human technology. They had samples old equipment, traded devices, shared research data. Surely they could understand it. Dr. Min Seo, watching from Earth through intelligence reports, almost felt sorry for them. Almost. The Prism scientists discovered what humans had known all along. Human technology was not just circuits and code. It was designed around human cognition, human reflexes, human intuition. The neural interfaces required human brain patterns. The control systems needed human response times. The artificial intelligence learned from human decision-making. You could not simply copy it. You had to be human to use it properly. 3 Prism research stations suffered catastrophic failures, trying to activate human fusion cores without proper authorization. The cores had safety systems, multiple redundant fail-safes, all tied to human biometric data. Removing those systems triggered containment breaches. Hundreds died. The Prism hegemony quietly stopped trying to reverse engineer human technology. Meanwhile, in the shadows beyond the galactic rim, something stirred. The Scourge had been waiting, watching, learning. 3 years ago, they had tried to invade Council space and been beaten back by human-led forces. Now, with humans gone, they decided to test the galaxy's defenses again. The first Scourge probe entered Arani space on a quiet Tuesday. The Arani defense fleet responded exactly as they had been trained. They activated their shield harmonics designed by humans. They launched their fighters in tactical formations taught by humans. They used their command network maintained by humans. Everything failed. The shield harmonics required constant updates to counter Scourge weapons. Those updates had stopped coming 18 months ago. The tactical formations only worked with real-time coordination through human-designed communication systems. Those systems no longer functioned properly. The command network used human AI to process battle data. That AI was gone. The first Arani battle group died in 4 hours. 30,000 soldiers. The second group lasted 3 hours. Then the Scourge war fleet arrived, and entire worlds went dark. Ambassador Kelth, evacuating from his homeworld as Scourge ships descended from orbit, sent one final message to Earth. It was marked urgent and personal, addressed to Ambassador Taeyang. The message was simple. You were right. We were fools. Please help us. On Earth, in the gleaming new Federation building overlooking the Pacific Ocean, Taeyang read the message. She had retired from ambassador to civilian life, but still consulted on galactic affairs, stared at the words for a long time. Behind her, others gathered. B.O.Ray, Ji Woo, Hana, old colleagues from the council days. We have to help them, Ba-Ora said quietly. Whatever they did, we cannot just let them die. Can't we? Hannah replied coldly. They voted to restrict us, to diminish us, to treat us as second-class beings. Why should we save them? Ji Woo, now a general, stood by the window. Because we are better than them. Because we do not let innocents die for their leaders' mistakes. Because if we become like them, then what was the point of leaving? The debate raged for hours. It spread beyond that room to the halls of government, to media broadcasts, to protests in the streets. Earth's population was divided. Some wanted revenge. Some wanted reconciliation. Some simply wanted nothing to do with the aliens who had betrayed them. While Earth debated, the galaxy burned. The scourge pushed deeper into council space. The Arani civilization, 2 billion souls across 7 worlds, ceased to exist in 3 weeks. The council military tried to stop them and failed. Without human strategic planning, without human tactical coordination, without human determination, they fell apart. 12 more species faced extinction. The Prism hegemony's inner worlds came under siege. Refugees fled by the billions, overwhelming every available system. The economy collapsed completely. What little trade remained evaporated. Species that had prospered for thousands of years watched their civilizations crumble. High Chancellor Malgoth, commanding the defense from his flagship, knew he was losing. Every battle confirmed it. The scourge adapted to their tactics within hours. They exploited weaknesses immediately. They crushed resistance without mercy. This was what the Council had faced 3 years ago. This was what humanity had saved them from. Malgoth made the hardest decision of his life. He composed a message to Earth. No demands. No threats. Just the truth. We were wrong. We need help. Please. The message arrived at Earth at the same time as 17 others from different species. All saying the same thing. All begging. The Prism hegemony offered technology transfers. The Tholian Empire offered territorial concessions. The Assyrian Collective offered resource rights. They offered everything because they had nothing left to lose. President Yoon-ji called an emergency session of Earth's government. Representatives gathered from every human world, every colony, every station. The question before them was simple. Do we help? The arguments went on for days. Those in favor spoke of human values, compassion, the moral duty to prevent genocide. Those against spoke of betrayal, of self-respect, of teaching the galaxy a permanent lesson. The vote was scheduled for the following morning. That night, Taeyang could not sleep. She walked through the empty corridors of the Federation building, thinking. In one direction lay revenge letting the galaxy that had scorned them burn. In another lay intervention saving those who had tried to cage them. Both choices felt wrong. Both felt right. She found herself in the archive room where a single item was displayed. Resolution 7 Alpha. The vote that had changed everything. 231 species saying humanity was too much, too aggressive, too dangerous. She stared at it for a long time. What would you do? A voice asked. She turned to find Ji Woo standing in the doorway. I do not know, Taeyang admitted. Part of me wants to watch them suffer. Part of me wants to save them. What does that make me? Human, Ji Woo replied. Which is exactly what they feared, and exactly what they need. The vote came the next morning. The results were close. Very close. But when the final count appeared, one side had won. Earth's government had made its decision. Now the galaxy would discover what humanity chose. President Yoon-ji prepared to broadcast Earth's response to the Council. The aliens waited, desperate and hopeless. Humanity held the power to save or destroy them. The storm they had awakened was about to show them its true face. President Yoon-ji stood before the quantum communication array, knowing that billions across the galaxy were watching. In council chambers, refugee camps, military command centers, and dying worlds, aliens waited for Earth's answer. Would humanity save them? Would humanity let them burn? The president took a breath and began speaking. People of the galaxy, she said, her voice transmitted across thousands of light years in real time. 18 months ago, You voted to diminish humanity. You decided we were too dangerous, too aggressive, too successful. You tried to cage us. You failed. In the ruins of the Arani homeworld, survivors huddled around receivers, hoping for salvation. On Velkrin warships fleeing the Scourge advance, soldiers listened with dread. Across the collapsing Prism hegemony, billions held their breath. Since we left your council, you have learned what the galaxy looks like without humanity propping it up. Your economies collapsed. Your trade networks died. Your medical systems failed. Your militaries crumbled. And now the Scourge devours you while you beg us for help. Yunji paused. The silence was absolute. We debated letting you burn. Many of our people wanted exactly that. You betrayed us, so why should we save you? She let that question hang in the air. But we are not like you. We do not abandon those in need, even when they have wronged us. So yes, humanity will intervene. Hope flared across 1,000 worlds. But Yunji was not finished. However, we will not return as beggars seeking readmission to your council. We will not come as equals to those who tried to make us inferior. We will come as what we have always been, superior in every way that matters. These are our terms, and they are not negotiable. The terms appeared on screens across the galaxy. First, the Galactic Council was dissolved permanently. Second, a new federation would form with humanity holding veto power over all major decisions. Third, all species would contribute technology and resources equally, no more human charity. Fourth, human military doctrine would become the standard for all defense forces. Fifth, the Velkrin Dominion leadership would face trial for instigating the crisis that killed billions. You have 12 hours to accept, Yunji concluded. After that, humanity will focus only on protecting ourselves. Choose wisely. The broadcast ended. Across the galaxy, species faced the hardest choice in their history. Accept and admit humanity's dominance, or refuse and face extinction. It was not really a choice at all. Not 11 hours and 47 minutes later, every surviving species had accepted the terms. High Chancellor Malgoth resigned rather than face trial. The Velkrin government collapsed as angry citizens who had lost everything demanded accountability. The Prism Hegemony's ruling council voted to dissolve itself and petition for human administration. The proud civilizations that had looked down on humanity now bent the knee. Admiral Song-Hoon received his orders on the bridge of the Indomitable. The ship had grown since humanity left the council, larger, faster, more powerful. Around it, 300 human warships assembled in formation. This was just the first wave. Behind them, Earth's full military might prepared to deploy. All ships report ready, Admiral, his communications officer announced. Sang-Hoon studied the tactical display. The Scourge had advanced deep into former council space. Their invasion corridor stretched across 20 systems. They had momentum, numbers, and recent victories. But they had never faced humanity fighting without restraint. Signal the fleet, Sang-Hoon ordered. We go to war. The human fleet jumped into the battle zone with precision that shocked the remaining alien defenders. Where council forces had retreated in chaos, humans advanced in perfect formation. Where aliens panicked and scattered, humans held their lines and fought with cold efficiency. The first engagement occurred at the Talver system. A Scourge war fleet of 200 vessels had been bombarding the planet for days. The remaining Tholian defenders were hours from collapse. Then the human ships arrived. Commander Su-Min led the vanguard. His battle group of 40 ships faced an enemy 5 times their number. The Scourge had never lost a battle since entering council space. They did not expect to lose this one. They were wrong. Human ships moved like they were dancing, each vessel anticipating the other's actions without communication delays. Their weapons fired with accuracy that defied probability. Their shields adapted in real time to enemy attacks. And their tactics were brutal, and beautiful Sung Min used what humans called the hammer and anvil. Half his force engaged the Scourge head-on, absorbing their attention. The other half circled through a jump point the Scourge did not know existed because humans had found it during their 18 months of exploration while the galaxy burned. They struck from behind, catching the Scourge between two fires. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it ended, 140 Scourge vessels were destroyed. The rest fled in disorder, something they had never done before. Human casualties: 3 ships damaged, 0 destroyed. The surviving Tholian defenders watched in stunned silence dot at the Prism Hegemony's capital world. General Jun Co. coordinated the defense with cold precision. The planet was surrounded by Scourge forces preparing for final assault. Every Prism simulation showed the planet falling within days. Jun Co. looked at the same data and saw opportunity. He positioned human defense platforms in orbit, technology the Council had never seen. When the Scourge attacked, expecting the same weak resistance they had encountered everywhere else, they flew into a trap. The platforms generated gravitational distortions that pulled Scourge ships out of formation. Human fighters swarmed through the chaos, targeting command vessels with terrifying accuracy. Prism defenders, following human coordination, actually managed to be effective for the first time in the war. The Scourge withdrew after losing a third of their attack force. The Prism capital was saved. Citizens who had voted to restrict humanity now wept with gratitude as human soldiers landed to reinforce defenses. Back on Earth, Hannah managed the economic side of the war effort. The resources humanity had conserved during 18 months of isolation now poured into military production. Factories that had retooled for human-only needs now supplied the largest military campaign in galactic history. And this time, humans did not give anything for free. Every species receiving human protection paid for it. Technology transfers, resource rights, trade concessions. The cost was high but fair. More importantly, it was non-negotiable. Species that had taken human charity for granted now learned what it meant to truly contribute. Tae-Young, serving as the new Federation's Secretary General, coordinated the political transformation. The old council building on Axis 7 was demolished. A new Federation headquarters rose on Earth, making humanity's dominance unmistakable. Representatives from other species came to Earth not as equals, but as petitioners. The Aurani, what few survived, sent Ambassador Kelth. He approached Tae-Young in the Federation building with obvious humility. Secretary General, on behalf of my people, I apologize for our cowardice. We should have stood with you. Tae-Young looked at him without warmth. Your apology is noted. Your people will be relocated to frontier worlds under human protection. You will rebuild. But you will do so knowing that humanity saved you after you abandoned us. Kelth lowered his head. We know. We will teach our children this lesson. Never again. See that you do, Tae-Young replied. The war against the Scourge continued for months. Battle after battle, humans pushed them back. Sometimes alone, sometimes with alien allies who finally learned to fight properly under human command. The tide that had seemed unstoppable began to turn. On the flagship Indomitable, Sang-Hoon reviewed after-action reports. His forces had now engaged the Scourge 53 times. 53 victories. Not all were perfect humans died in these battles. Good soldiers, brave men and women who gave their lives for a galaxy that had scorned them. But they died winning. Admiral, we have intercepted Scourge communications, his intelligence officer reported. They are retreating to the Galactic Rim. They are giving up the invasion. Sang-Hoon nodded slowly. The Scourge had come expecting easy prey. They found humanity instead. Now they fled, Having learned the same lesson the Council learned, never underestimate humans, but the war was not over yet. The Scourge still held 20 systems. They still had hundreds of ships. And humans were not interested in a negotiated peace. This time, humanity would finish what they started. 5 years after humanity quit the Galactic Council, the galaxy was unrecognizable. The Scourge had been pushed beyond the galactic rim after 3 years of brutal warfare. The old council was gone, replaced by the Federation of United Worlds, a name that fooled no one about who truly ruled. And across 1,000 worlds, species that once dismissed, humans now sent their children to human schools, and their leaders to Earth for approval. Admiral Sang-hoon stood on the observation deck of Unity Station rebuilt, and expanded under human administration, and watched ships from 20 different species pass through the orbital lanes. Each ship followed human traffic protocols. Each captain answered to human controllers. The organized chaos that was galactic commerce now ran with clockwork precision, because humans made it so. Strange, is it not? A voice said behind him. He turned to find General Jun ECO, retired now but still attending to military matters as an advisor. 5 years ago, they tried to cage us. Now they beg us to tell them how to live. They learned the hard way, Sang-hoon replied. Some lessons can only be taught through pain. The final campaign against the Scourge had been humanity's masterpiece. Commander Sung-min had led the deep strike force that found the Scourge staging grounds beyond the rim. Instead of simply driving them out, humans hunted them down system by system. The Scourge had come to invade. They left as refugees, fleeing to distant galaxies with human warships snapping at their heels. No species in the galaxy had ever defeated the Scourge so completely. The Council had barely survived them. Humanity destroyed them. The message was clear. This was what happened when you gave humans a real enemy and unlimited resources. On Earth, in the Federation headquarters, Secretary General Tae Yang reviewed the latest reports. The economic recovery was ahead of schedule. Trade had exceeded pre-Exodus levels. New colonies were being established in regions the old council had forbidden. Human population had grown by 40%, spreading across 500 systems now. Everything the council had tried to prevent, humanity achieved. Secretary General, the Velcrin delegation has arrived, her assistant announced. Tae Yang nodded. The Velcrin, once the instigators of Resolution 7 Alpha, now came as supplicants. Their new Chancellor, Virix, was young and diplomatic, nothing like the arrogant Malguth who had started this mess. Virix entered the office with obvious nervousness. Secretary General, thank you for seeing me, Virix said, bowing in the human fashion. Every species learned human customs now. What does the Velcrin Dominion need? Ta Yang asked directly. She did not waste time with pleasantries anymore. We wish to apply for full Federation membership, Virix said. We have met all requirements. Our economy is stable. Our military follows human doctrine. We have paid our war reparations in full. Tae Yang studied the young Chancellor. The Velcrin had suffered more than most. Their economy collapsed first. Their fleets were destroyed fighting the Scourge under poor leadership. Their population declined by 30% through war and starvation. Some humans said they deserved it. Tae Yang wondered if punishment had gone far enough. Your application will be reviewed, she said finally. But understand something, Chancellor. Federation membership is a privilege, not a right. You will follow human leadership. You will contribute resources and technology. You will accept that humanity's voice carries more weight than yours. Can your people accept this? Yes, Virix said without hesitation. We accept it because we understand now what we did not before. Humanity is not just another species. You are exceptional. We tried to limit you out of jealousy and fear. We paid for that mistake. We will not repeat it. After Varix left, Taeyong sat in silence. Exceptional. That word followed humanity everywhere now. Some species said it with admiration, others with resentment, all with respect. The galaxy had learned that humans were not like other species. They adapted faster, fought harder, built better, and never forgave betrayal. Across the Federation, the transformation continued. On the medical station where Dr. Boora once worked, the facility now operated under human administration. Alien doctors studied human techniques, not as equals but as students. The vaccines that had saved millions were distributed for a price. The research that had been mocked was now the standard everyone followed. How does it feel? Her colleague asked. They used to laugh at your work. Now they beg for it. Boora smiled slightly. Satisfying, but also sad. How many died because of their pride? How many could have been saved if they had simply respected what we offered freely? In the frontier regions, Commander Sung Min led exploration fleets into territories the old council never reached. They found habitable worlds, rich resource systems, and ancient alien technology. All of it became human property. When the council existed, such expansion would have been blocked, regulated, limited. Now there were no limits. Humanity grew without restriction. Sir, we have located another colony site, his science officer reported. Class M world, abundant water, no native sentience. Claim it, Sung Min ordered. Register it with Earth. Start the settlement process. This was the price the galaxy paid for trying to cage humanity. Every system humans claimed now was one less for other species. Every resource humans took was gone forever. The Council had feared human expansion. Now they watched helplessly as humanity expanded without bound. President Yoon-ji, now serving her second term, addressed the Federation Assembly. Representatives from 47 species listened as she outlined humanity's vision for the future. More trade integration, unified military command, shared technology development with humans controlling the research priorities, better border security, expansion into unclaimed regions. Some say humanity has become what we once opposed, Yoon-ji said. An empire by another name. Perhaps that is true. But consider what we offer in return. Peace, prosperity, protection. Under the old council, you had democracy without results. Under human leadership, you have security and success. Is that not a fair trade? No one voted against her proposals. No one dared. The last species that opposed human leadership too vocally found their trade routes redirected and their resource imports delayed. Nothing illegal, nothing overt, just enough pressure to make the point. The Federation was democratic in theory. In practice, Earth ruled absolutely. On Mars, at the military academy, young officers from 24 species trained under human instructors. They learned human tactics, human discipline, human standards. One Arani cadet asked how it felt to train under the species his people once voted against, replied simply, "It feels like learning from the best. We were fools to think otherwise." The Prism hegemony, once proud and independent, now operated as essentially a human protectorate. Their government made no major decisions without consulting Earth first. Their military served under human command. Their economy integrated completely with human markets. They had ceased to be truly independent, and everyone knew it. Ambassador Kelth, now elderly, taught at the Federation Diplomatic School. He used the story of Resolution 7 Alpha as a cautionary tale. "We thought we were voting to limit a dangerous species," he told his students. "We were actually voting to free them from any obligation to us. We removed their chains and then wondered why they grew so strong." In human cities across Earth and the colonies, monuments appeared commemorating the Exodus. The most famous stood in front of the Federation headquarters, a statue of Ambassador Tai Yang, walking away from the council chamber. The inscription read, "They tried to cage the storm. Instead, they taught it to roar." 50 years after humanity quit the council, Tai Yang gave a lecture at the Federation Academy. She was old now, her hair white, but her mind remained sharp. Students, human and alien alike, filled the auditorium to hear the woman who had defied the galaxy. "Many ask if we should forgive," Tai Yang said. "If we should let go of what the council did to us. My answer is always the same. We have not forgotten. We will never forget. But we have moved beyond it. The galaxy tried to diminish us, and instead made us realize our own strength." A young Velcrin student raised a tentacle. "Secretary General Emeritus, was the Council's vote the worst mistake in galactic history?" Tai Yang considered the question. "No, it was the best thing that ever happened to humanity. They gave us a gift, the gift of necessity. They forced us to become what we always could have been. Without their betrayal, we might have remained comfortable, dependent on their approval. They freed us from that weakness." She looked out at the diverse faces before her humans, Velcrin, Prism, Tholian, and others, all studying together, all working toward the same future, a future humanity controlled. "Remember this lesson," she concluded. "The universe respects strength, not cruelty, but the strength to stand alone when you must, the courage to walk away from those who do not value you, the determination to build something better without permission from anyone." The lecture ended. Students filed out, discussing her words. Through the windows, ships passed overhead military vessels on patrol, keeping the peace humanity had imposed. The galaxy was safer now, more prosperous, better organized. All because humans refused to accept being limited. In her office later, Tai Yang stood before the same display she had seen 5 years ago. Resolution 7 Alpha, preserved as a reminder. 231 species voting to restrict humanity. She read the names of every species that voted yes. Most had prospered under human leadership. Some had been destroyed by the scourge. All had learned the same lesson. Never underestimate humanity. Never try to limit them. Never assume you understand what they are capable of. The galaxy tried to control the storm, and instead awakened it fully. Now the storm shaped the galaxy itself, and it would never sleep again. Outside, Earth turned beneath the stars. Across the Federation, human ships patrolled, human administrators governed, human teachers educated, human doctors healed. Humanity had quit the Galactic Council and discovered they did not need it. The galaxy, however, needed humanity desperately. That imbalance defined the new order. That truth shaped the future the storm had awakened, and it ruled absolutely.